You're writing very small. It's a sign of high intelligence.
Like,
Or serious psychology. One or two.
It's psychosis. I'm pretty sure it's a psychosis.
Your interpretation?
my handwriting is terrible.
Yeah. Everybody who needs one has one?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
one. So, is it like currently right now?
From now to the rest, yeah. Or you can write pi to 25 decimal points. Either one is okay.
Very excited.
It's great. So I have nothing but praise for it.
Nothing but praise for?
Twitter, they have this login system. It's called Digits, and you just put in your phone number, and it sends you a token, that's a one-time token. And we're using that as a primary authentication scheme. No email, no password.
Cool.
It's just your phone number.
I like it. I'd have to learn about that. So just one sentence, what we can change going forward to make the course more rewarding for you, more fulfilling, more useful, more worthwhile. Thank you.
It's like 3 sentences.
Wow.
3 phrases.
I should have said 140 characters. You want me to write a reference from grad school, so now it's maybe 3 sentences.
Yeah.
Everybody passed to each
It was
other.
great. Class was great. It was great.
Yeah. Signed.
Yes.
It's anonymous, obviously, right? So.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's like Yik Yak. My Twitter handle at the bottom, following them.
Yeah. Anybody? Do you want one?
That would make your life more
From now till the end, I'm going to ask you another point to give you an overall feedback on the course and how to improve it for next year. But now there's still time to ask. Yes.
It's hard. I'm not going to.
Really cute. But yeah, even if you already got time, whatever, just like get that over his handle on it. You know what? I think today I want to get first.
Everybody have one?
No, I match surveys to people. I just match on. Yeah.
Are you cold? I know you. Kind of drugs, kind of the fact that you know how to.
Thank you. You have two.
It has to be done.
Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay.
They already destroyed they already like turned down the house. Oh no, Oscar, you're destroying the castle, right? You're destroying the castle, right? No, they're destroying the castle, right?
Okay, let's get going. I prepared a lot of goodies for you last night.
Wait, like
Goodies. First of all, I'm going to make this quick because I want most of the time spent on you guys building your products. I'm not going to do this one, but it's here for you. It's a tiny Rails demo that starts from nothing, putting many tests, models and databases, fixtures, and it works. So you can, if you want to quickly build a Rails application, I use it for the next thing, but I will not do this one. But the next one is CodeShip. So CodeShip is one of a bunch of services which are part of a continuous integration or a continuous deployment workflow. And what it does very simply is you can connect it to your GitHub repository, and it will monitor it. And whenever you push a new commit to it, CodeShip will suck the code out. It will run all the tests. If the tests all succeed, it'll automatically deploy your product to Heroku. If one of the tests fail, it'll send you an email. And this is the latest thing that is being used by all serious web development companies, not CodeShip per se, but things like it. And the idea basically is to reduce to remove the concept of a product release to make it be something that's constantly happening. And so your developers will find out immediately if they push bad code into the main branch, because CodeShip will send them an email, a little bit of hate mail saying, hey, your test failed. And once they fix it, it'll automatically be deployed onto, in the real world, it tends to be a staging server or a beta server. But really, this is, you hear that Facebook does like, another version of their product every hour or every 5 minutes, and so does Twitter, and so does all the big companies do it. So the whole idea of a major release is kind of out the window. People are just constantly releasing all the time. And there's a lot of other software engineering practices that go with that, which we'll cover as we go forward. But for now, let's see what it's like to deploy to CodeShip. Okay, so I'm going to just do it again. I'm going to take my sweater off because I'm warm. And you can do this along on your own computer to see what happens. Go to CodeShip and just separate these two windows so you can keep them both open. And I'm already signed up, so I can just go here and sign in. And you should sign in with GitHub, because that's how it's going to grab your code. And here are all the projects that I already have, but I'm going to create a new project just to illustrate the point. In fact, let me just delete this one first, because that's what I did before. Maybe general. Delete this project, okay? Delete. And now I'm going to go projects again, and I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to call it, what do I call it? Tiny, oh yeah, it's going to show me the list. So I'm already connected to my SCM. Let me just make this bigger. So this little cat is GitHub, obviously we all know that. And there it is, it grabbed all the things that are visible from my directory. And what we're looking for is tiny, so it's under the T's, I hope. It's alphabetical. So it's obviously looked at my GitHub repository, right? And okay, let's do it this way. Is this going to work? Okay, there it is. Much easier. Okay, so now let's look at my instructions here. Select that with a cat, specific name, select it to pre-populate, choose Ruby on Rails. So I'm going to, over here, I'm going to want to use Ruby on Rails. Okay, and you see here what it's going to do for you. It's going to grab Rails, Ruby 2.2.0. It's going to do an bundle install. It's going to do a rate DB schema load, and I believe I have to add to it rate. I think I had. Oh no, I didn't have any. Okay, and now now we're all set, and I should be able to say save and go to dashboard over here, and it's going to. Okay, now I have to. So now it's all set up. And all I have to do now is to make a change in my GitHub repo to make it notice that something happened, right? So I'm going to go over to my terminal. I'm going to go to Tiny, and I'm going to do touch. Touch just either creates a new file or changes the modification date to right now. And git add dash all, git commit. Test CodeShip, git push, and now if things work correctly, you should be able to see something happen here. Okay, maybe it detected there was no actual change. I'm going to make an actual change. Touch. Let me just go to editor. There we go. Again, git add all, git commit, test, code check again, git push. Oh, here we go. Yep. So now it's starting to run it. Starting to run the test for me. And
Does it do a rate test?
it does rate test, exactly, right? And in a minute, hopefully it'll be green because it's so simple. And so you should have, as you build more tests in your app, you're going to find that tests get run all the time. And you're going to be on your way to doing a professional software engineering job on deploying it and building your product.
So does CodeShip run the tests in your app or its own tests? I'm not sure.
It runs it does the rake test command, and rake test goes through all the tests in your test subdirectory and runs them one after the other.
So that's what it's okay.
So it's running your tests. So obviously, if you don't put any tests in your app, it's always going to pass, but that kind of defeats the purpose. Okay, while we wait for that to complete, so that's pretty clear, right? So it's going to only work, obviously, it's going to only be interesting if you have tests. Now, once you have that, let me go to a different screen and talk about some other stuff while we wait for that to finish.
It's like baking.
Pardon? Yeah, it's baking, exactly, yeah. Now, let's go to, just type it in. Let's go to look at hands-on for Heroku for Rails. Now, Heroku is a totally separate service. They're not related to each other at all, but they work well together. It just happens to be that Heroku is the premier platform as a service product, although there's many others. And all that Heroku is they run a bunch of servers, and they have partitioned those servers into what they call dynos, which is also, you can think of it as a virtual machine, right? And they support many different languages. They support Ruby and Rails, but they support many other languages, probably all of them at this point, because they're so popular. And in fact, their dynos run on top of Amazon EC2 servers. So they don't even own the computers. Amazon owns the computers. So what they do is they've created a really easy-to-use layer on top of that to do a couple of things. One is to help you automate the deployment of your code to Heroku, and you will configure it to tell it that what we're talking about is Rails. And it's done, it's success. You'll configure, to tell it what you're talking about is Rails, and you will do a few configuration steps, which I'll show you. And then every time you do a git from your account, from your shell, you do a git push master to Heroku, master to Heroku instead of master to GitHub. It's going to move your code over there, and it's going to automatically kick off a sequence of events that lead eventually to the deployment of your app. And if it all works, then at the end, you will have an app, you'll have a URL called like myapp.herokuapp.com, which will correspond to what you get on your own computer when you type 0.0.0:3000/nothing. Okay? This is another thing to realize about Heroku is this is where the whole business of the environment of your Rails app comes into play, right? I mean, Rails by default, and this is one of the innovations when they first created Rails, is configured to allow 3 different environments. The first one is the one you use every day, which is the development environment, which uses typically will use a database on your own laptop. Then there's the test environment, which typically will use a separate database on your laptop, and in addition will instantiate your fixtures. And then finally, there's a production environment, and that has some other characteristics. Now, the Rails itself is pretty much agnostic about how the 3 environments differ, but there are defaults that you're supplied, okay? One of the big things is that in your environments, you can choose what kind of database product you're using to store the data. And we know that up to now, we've been using SQLite 3 on your laptops, both for development and for test, but on Heroku, they don't support that, they only support Postgres. So one of the big things, which is small, that you have to do is tell your app that when it's in production mode to run with Postgres, and I'll show you how to do that. Then in addition, once the thing is running on the Heroku server, you can no longer do easy things like typing rake db migrate. So there's ways of doing that remotely. There's also ways of doing things like looking at the log file remotely, which is a great way to find out why your app is failing on Heroku, and I'll show you all that. Okay, questions? Pretty clear, right? Okay. So, pardon? So the assumptions are you have a brand new Rails application, so it's just hands-on Tiny Rails demo, and it's in a public GitHub directory. Okay, so the first thing to do, you can play along at home, go to Heroku and create a new user account for yourself and install the Heroku tool belt for your platform, which I just look up Heroku tool belt for your platform. It's probably just gen install Heroku, but just check what they say. I've already done that on mine. Oh, I see, I didn't finish my work here, but that's okay. So what you need to do is you want to go to your config directory and look at your environment. No, not there. Look in your database directory. Look at your database environment. There it is. See, I did not update this properly, so I'm going to have to do this without a net. That's okay. So here's what this file does. This file is specifically about the database configuration for. I'm videotaping this, by the way, but you're welcome to take a picture of it. This file is specifically about the database configuration for this particular Rails app, and it's using some crazy notation which makes life more confusing because they were obsessed about keeping it dry. So this is the default configuration. Adapter is SQLite, use a pool of 5, timeout of 5,000. Here's the interesting stuff for development. Use the default, but modify the database to be DB, which is the subdirectory in your Rails directory /development.SQLite. Down here is the test environment. Again, use this as a default, but call it DB test of SQLite. For production, that's where it's wrong, because this is still using SQLite. This is not going to work on Heroku, okay? So we're going to modify that. And I did it at home already, but for some reason I don't have it yet. Let me just check for the hell of it. No, okay.
Start with Postgres. I know. This is one.
You can start with Postgres, but that's a pain on your laptop because Postgres is an actual server. So that means that on your laptop you have to run Postgres and then run your Rails app. And if you forget to run Postgres, then it doesn't work, or it just makes it more complicated. So SQLite is better for local, but Postgres is required for Heroku. So I'm going to type here Heroku, Postgres, Rails, database.yml. The other one's even better. This one's even better. Okay, and migrate your database. So you have to, what does it say, what you want to say? Okay, so what we have to do is, first of all, let me just see here, database of YML, default. Okay, they're changing all of them. They're changing the default, but we don't have to do that, so we're just going to take those lines, and we're going to go over here, and, production is going to be, take the default, but then modify it by saying adapt to PostgreSQL, and don't worry about that. Okay, so I think that's all I have to do. So now I've told it in production, go with PostgreSQL. Okay? Now the other thing you have to do, bundler. Let's just take a look at your gem file. And you want to make sure that under production, and again here a mistake, that I did not upload my latest version. Was that a question? Okay. I want to say group :production do gem PG. So in production, use the PG gem, Whereas in development and test, I want to use, bless you, I want to use SQLite, and I have a missing end here. Yep. Okay, I think that should be correct. So I believe those are the only changes I have to make to get it to work. So I'm now going to go to my shell, and I'm going to do these commands that I have down here.
You go back to database, that white off.
I will in half a second after I remind myself of the commands I have to do here. It's very easy. Okay, so what did you want to see? Database.yml?
Yeah.
Okay, that's in the database directory. No, it's in the config directory. Okay? So now you go to your shell, and if things work, if you have your tool belt installed correctly, you can do Heroku version, and it should give you the version of the Heroku tool belt, and you know you're in good shape. And then you do Heroku login to log in to Heroku, and God, if only know what my password is here. Nope, that's not it. Yeah. Okay? And then the last thing you have to do is Heroku create, which is now going to create for the first time an app on Heroku for me. Okay? And if you've done, so far my Rails app is not in the picture. Okay, I'm just creating an empty shell right now. Heroku create. And you can see here that it gave it a name. It's called the Pacific Plateau 9791. And what I have to do is now git add all, git commit -m latest, and I think it's git push Heroku master. Does that sound right to you guys? So notice what is going on here. I'm not sending it to GitHub. Normally you would say, if you said the whole sentence, you'd say git push git push origin master. Origin is where the thing started, which is on GitHub. Now I'm saying git push Heroku master. So I'm pushing the same commit instead of to GitHub. I'm pushing it to my slot on Heroku. And that's going to be the trigger to make the ball start rolling. Okay? So I'm going to do this, and it's going to show me a lot of what's going on. And when I did it at home, I had to fix all kinds of errors. Let's see if it works out this time. So it said, okay, that's a Ruby app. That's good. And yep, failed. So why did it fail? It failed because I had not done a bundle on this machine. Okay? I have to say bundle install, just to be sure. Yeah, that's the same thing actually. And try it again. Notice all I do is push, and Heroku detects that push and starts trying to get it to run. So it's compiles it. It's using the version I want. Oh, failed again because okay. Maybe I was mistaken. I should bundle install, not bundle update.
You are trying to install deployment though.
I don't think you've added the change to Git though.
Pardon me?
I don't think you've added the change to Git though, the bundle install.
Oh, right. Of course, you're right. Thank you. Because the bundle install creates a new file called, what's it called again?
Gemfile.log.
Gemfile.log. And that has to be uploaded to Heroku as well. And let's see what happens now. Installing all the gems for me on my dyno. So it's using my bundle file, my bundle.install, bundle.log rather, gemfile.log. While that's happening, let me show you gemfile.log to explain what the heck we're talking about here. So gemfile is the file you edit, and when you do bundle install, it creates this file. And this file shows all the specific detailed version of gems that you're using that are known to work with your application. You never edit this file. It's created for you whenever you type bundle install. Okay? Bundle by itself, the command bundle by itself, simply attempts to install these specific gems of these specific versions. And so generally when you've got it working, you don't want to do more bundle installs. You want to just do bundle, because it just makes sure you have the right things there, but it doesn't go get new ones. All right, so going back here, it's still going. So assets precompile is basically what it's doing is it's going, this is a standard Rails thing, it's going through all your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in the assets directory and processing them and compressing them, making them very efficient. So that's what that step is. And warning, but it's letting me go. Okay, it looks like we're there. So now we can do Heroku, I think open, which just launches the browser with that URL. And of course, I don't have a home page, so it's going to give me that standard. But now look at the URL. It's coming off the Heroku app website. Pacific Plateau 979 doesn't exist because there's no home page. And I don't remember what I actually have, so I'm going to look at the code really fast. And see in my app directory, I have controllers, courses. Okay, so it's courses, so I should be able to say here /courses. Okay, now this is good. When this happens, what do you do? Here's what you do. You go to your console, you type Heroku log dash tail, or dash tail. Let's see what it is. Logs. Okay, thank you. Okay, good. So this is the last set of errors that the Rails server gave, and we'll see here whether we can see evidence as to what the problem is. And the problem, I don't see a problem, so let me try it again and see whether I see. Now we can put both screens on together, so I can do this. And I can go back to the same page, and this should change, and it's failing because something wrong with that URL. So let me look at my routes file really fast, and it's courses. This should work. So this is exactly what's happening to you guys, right? So let's read this error message here. It says info get path courses /1 host is such and such. Oh, you know what? I bet it's because nobody has done a rake db migrate. So let's try to do that. So the way you do that, and they're always changing Heroku, so they might sometimes, I forget what they're doing automatically, but what you do is Heroku run rake db migrate, and that's going to run rake db migrate on your virtual server. Let's see if it makes sense. And I might as well try rake db seed while I'm at it. I don't remember if there was a seed file there. It looks like I don't have a seed file.
Faker.
Pardon?
There's a problem with Faker.
Oh, Faker. Huh. Very interesting. So let's look at my gem file. I just wanted to see you how I troubleshoot this thing. So it's very possible that in my gem file, Faker is living somewhere where it shouldn't, under development only. But no, we need it in all modes. So I move it out of this group. Okay, everybody get that? Okay. What are the steps I have to do? I have to do get out of here. I have to do bundle update. I have to do git add -all. git commit -m last change, git push Heroku master, and it's going to do this. It'll go faster because I think it'll go faster anyway, because it has some context already set up. It's only been half an hour, so good. I'm going to be done soon. This might already be working. There, okay, that's working. Okay, so anyway, so you see here, now I have my Rails app running on Heroku. Okay? Of course, I polished off all the rough edges when I was experimenting by myself last night, so, you know, some of the stuff I discovered by accident. I mean, in this world of ours, there, at least for my feeble brain, there's just so much random detail to memorize that you just can't. And so I'm always, you know, looking up, cut and paste, even things I know really well, really well, I'll never remember the detailed syntax. But there it is. It's running on a couple of other tricks I want to show you. So I showed you Heroku run rake DBC. Okay, seems like it worked. Now I can say Heroku run console. I think that's the command. So now I'm in the equivalent of Rails console, but on my slice in the cloud. Okay, so I can do things now like course.all. Okay, so I'm literally operating on my Rails server at Heroku. Okay, and I can even go further, and I can even say Heroku run shell, I think it is. And now I'm sitting, oh, didn't work. Okay, bash maybe. And now I'm sitting at my Rails directory on my slice in the cloud. So I can even go totally crazy and do whatever I want here. Questions? Okay, I believe that's all I had for today. Oh, no, I got one more thing for you. One more thing. I felt like I left some stones unturned yesterday, so I turned them last night and this morning, and I created for your viewing pleasure form view demo. So let's go to that. Exit, cd, form, view, demo, Rails server. So basically what we have here is 0.03000 slash, what the hell were they? Are they courses again? Slash demo form, yeah. Here we have a view displaying a form built with form, I don't know why this come out, built with form 4, another form built with straight up HTML, looks the same, another form built with form tag, looks the same, and an illustration of other types like a drop down and a radio button. Okay? So showing you what that looks like in code, I'm going to kill this. Now it's right here. So the big thing is in the views. Under courses, I have form demo.html. So let's take a look at this. So first, this is straight HTML. It's an ERB file, right? So I can put regular HTML in there, H1s and stuff like that, HR, which draws a horizontal line. And then this is almost straight from what's created by the Rails generator. And this is what we saw before. Okay, so we have here a form tag corresponding with an end tag. Each one in here has a set of divs. And these divs are here just for styling. because it creates a block that can be decorated with CSS. This is just putting a label in, so that's not very interesting. You could just put a text string. This is the important one, which creates the text field. All right. The fact that form4 is given the instance variable @course, which was set up in the new action, is what allows the whole block to know that in fact there is a field called name, because it examines the instance of the course object that it got to make sense out of it. And so that's why you can stick with all defaults, and it's very clever. All you have to say is f.submit. And if you look up here, the second parameter I had was an action to go to form demo, because otherwise it would go to new. So that's the first one. And just to show you what you get, it's this. Very simple. Right? Just put these numbers, the number, put a little thing in here, which is pretty much useless, but anyway. Anyway, nobody plays with that. So that's fine. I create a course and it does its thing. Next, let's take a look at the next one. The same thing done in straight HTML, no helpers at all. Okay? Fran, do you follow what I'm doing?
Yeah,
okay.
totally.
Okay, so straight HTML. Notice that I give it a name that has this interesting format, and that's because the way the information is then passed to your action is going to be a hash with a nested structure called course, within which there's a tag called number. And so this is very specific, and it ties directly to the code. This is not optional. Okay? And there's the number, there's the text, there's the text, there's the text, there's the submit. In this case, because I'm using straight HTML, I have to put the value of what goes in the submit button right here. Okay? The next one we're going to do, somebody asked tags. And this is what it looks like with tags. Pretty similar, actually, except it's not creating that generator that I talked about. Okay? Instead, each helper, because these are helpers, they're just next text field tags, each helper stands on its own, and there's no connection. I'm not putting @courses here, so it doesn't really know what the object that's being created. This is more simple-minded, but it achieves exactly the same outcome. Okay? And finally, how to do other kinds of fields. I showed you just a couple. There's a lot of them, but these are the two that are most difficult. So we have here this the same. This time it's going to be department, and instead of a field, a text field or a number field, it's going to be a drop-down. That's called a select. We give it a name, and the next parameter is this complicated data structure that you build with this other helper called options for select. Options for select takes a doubly nested array with the text that you want to show up on the drop-down and the number that you wanted to return when somebody picks that one. And that's how you get the drop-down. And the way you get radio buttons is you have a field set tag that gets a label, and then each one you have a radio button tag. Notice they all have the same first parameter, and that's how they know that these three are tied together, because they have the same first parameter, and these are the labels for the individual radio buttons. And so if we now pick this one as an example, and this code is all available to you from the website. We pick this one, and I didn't finish debugging this one, so I'm not totally sure if it's going to do the right thing. But I'm going to do create course, and if we go to our, okay, we see here that number and name are the two fields it got. Here's the science, the radio button science. It picked that it was somewhat science, and the department. I think it's number 2, maybe. Let me just see here what happened. Let's look at the code. So there's the science. Somewhat is what I picked, and maybe I didn't pick anything here because that would be computer science 1, 2, 3. Let's do it again just for fun. Okay, I'm going to pick philosophy. I'm going to pick no. I'm going to hit create course. I'm going to look at my log file, and I got name 2. If we look at the code, name 2, philosophy. Okay? Any questions? All right. So this is what I felt yesterday I had left out, so I added it for you guys. Yes, sir.
Can you explain how to create checkboxes and how they?
It's the same idea. I mean, it would look the way I have to go research it myself, as I was saying before. But if you look at, if you go, let me show you what you do. You go to active record, form, tag, helpers. And I would go right to this. And I would find here, you want to check boxes which are called, help me, help me, help me. Pardon?
Checkbox.
There it is, checkbox. Okay, checkboxes. And so you end up doing something pretty similar. Checkbox, the name, the value, checkbox, object name, method, and then I want checkbox tag, so actually I want. No. Nope, I didn't hear a bad hit from Google. Bad hit again. Anyway, I won't do it. But that's basically the idea. You find a checkbox tag helper or a checkbox helper, and look at my code, and it's kind of pretty similar but a little different. Yeah.
This is more of a bootstrap thing.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered, how do you put pictures in your background?
Okay. Yeah, that's a CSS thing. Actually.
Yeah.
I have to look it up, but it's very easy. It probably goes on the body tag, and there's probably you know what it is?
No, I actually came across it.
Okay, so it's on your body tag. There'll be some you probably put a class on your body tag. Class equals background.
Using a URL?
No, you'd say body. You'd say something like.
Bill, if you go to the Cosi website,
Yeah,
you can see
image
the
assets.
CSS there.
Pardon me?
If you go to the Constellation website for the hackathon, we have the picture.
Are you coming Saturday for Constellation?
It's next Saturday.
Next Saturday? Who's coming? Who's coming? You guys gonna come for the hackathon? I'm gonna be there. That could be a plus or a minus, you know. Depends.
I thought we were going to Spark next weekend.
Yeah, I'm doing both.
Oh.
I'm doing both. So you don't know. There goes my Saturday. So you'd say class equals full page, let's say, and like that. This is your HTML, and then in your CSS,
I don't know how to do it.
you'd have something that says dot full page curly bracket, and you'd have something of it, which means, and have the image URL here.
Like background.
Yeah, look up
yeah.
in CSS how to indicate a background. Because you can put a background on anything. You can put a background on a small thing or the whole page.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, any other questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Oh my God, I'm scared.
In the third form you showed, can you show the code again?
Yeah, the third one, the one with the crazy things, or the one that's just tags?
Yes, that's what I was wondering about.
Yeah.
That form demo courses path. What's the route you had to set in your config to get that?
Oh, just what it sounds like. No,
Is it like resources form download?
it's not a resource. It's a one. Check it out. Here's what I did. So it's a collection, which means for a resource, by default, resource can have the plural to get them all, /1 to get a specific one. If you want to have / anything else but the number, you make them collection tags. So this basically has created two new URLs, courses / courses / form demo with a get, and then / courses / form demo with a post. And the / courses / form demo goes to a special action called forms demo submit.
That's the rendering.
That's what, when I hit the submit button, where I want it to go. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to be around, but that's the end of our formal activities. Go forth and code.
No, I I told it.
This is how yours is pretty old, right?
Yeah.